Welcome to That Worldview Podcast, another episode of the Single Series. Today I have Andrew and Ali Dabbs, who I met in Romania about 5 or 6 months ago when I was there, and we really just hit it off. They're great, and they're actually back in the States for a couple months here in Texas before going back to Romania, and so I thought this would be a great time to have them on the podcast. Andrew, Ali, it's good to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, man, it's good to be home. See some family stuff. I'm real excited about this podcast deal. I'm actually looking for my gummy bears, like Sean Ryan, and see what we get. But no, this is good. It's good for us.
Yeah, so I'm too poor to be handing out gummy bears every episode.
Right.
So no, it's really good. I'm glad you guys are home. I didn't actually know you guys were going to be home. I think we flew in like 2 days from each other because you guys flew in Saturday and I flew in like Monday.
Yeah, you just kind of met up, talked to Brandon and a few people, and they said you're going to be here, and it just kind of God just kind of put us in the same area at the same time. So it's kind of neat how things worked out.
Yeah, Ali, how are you liking
Hello.
America so far?
I really like it. It's good to be here. It's a new place. It's very big for me, but it's good to see his place now because he's been to Romania. But
Nice. It was. Yeah. I loved your comment the other day. We're driving down the freeway, and you go, "Look at all these busy bees."
Yes, many cars.
It's pretty busy here compared to where you grew up, I guess.
Yes.
That's great. One of the so to start out, what was it like? I guess because the whole point of the podcast is the single series. So what was it like growing up? How old were you guys when you guys got married?
25 for me.
25.
22.
22. Okay, so you guys had a good at least 5 or 6 years, or not that long, maybe like 3 years, 3 to 5 years of being single when everyone's wondering when you're going to get married, right? There's that right after 18 is like when that really happens, you know. So what were things that you learned, I guess, things that you were glad you learned growing up about either like how to approach a dating situation, or things that you thought about, or things that your parents taught you, or even didn't teach you? Like, what are things that you learned that you kind of wish you learned earlier?
For me, it was a little bit different. Just kind of, we grew up, like I was homeschooled for sure, right? And a lot of homeschoolers, I would say, are like more introverted because you're not around a lot of other people, right? And so it was, for me, it was getting out, getting to know people. I kind of wish I had more opportunities to do that and just kind of push myself with different challenges, just getting to know other people, not just sticking with the homeschooler group. You're just kind of protected too in that realm of things, and like I think it's good as a household and as a family. They're kind of protective, but also it can be overprotective, and that was kind of like my upbringing. It was pretty protected. So I just wish I could have got out a little bit more. Got out of that introvert stage with things, and probably made it a little bit more comfortable with talking to people in general.
Yeah. I think that something I find interesting with homeschoolers is I've noticed, like, there's obviously a balance, but sometimes it's one or the other. I know homeschool families that are like, they're never home. And then I know homeschool families where they're like, oh, your brother's your best friend. You don't need anybody else.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
How about for you, Ali?
For me, I went to school. I went to first school and then to high school and then to college. But for me, really, I wasn't with the mind or the thoughts for, getting married. Or, of course, I wanted, to happen one day. But for me, big help was my dad, and I would say my parents, their way of living and their way of acting with each other. And growing up, I always wanted a man like my dad. I could say that. And, going in the world and, in the school and, in the class and seeing other men or other boys in the world, I'm like, I don't want that. I want something different. I want a man of God. And for me was my dad, and talking to him, and he was giving me many advices, and growing up like that, was a big help. And
yeah, I think I guess you kind of had a different, obviously you're raised in different countries, right? You Texas and you in Romania, but also you were homeschooled and you were public schooled, right? So I think that's actually really interesting, and to Obviously, I think the schools, I'm guessing, I guess, I don't really know, but are probably, the public schools there are probably much different than here. Like in Romania, as far as I can tell, there's a much more serious mindset toward academics in Europe in general than there is in the U.S. In the U.S., it's more of a party scene. You know, I think probably as far as I can tell in Europe, they're much more serious about their studies.
Yeah, they're very strict.
So there's less messing around. There's less probably a lot of that too. But it was cool because you kind of grew up realizing, okay, I don't want that,
Yeah.
right? I want what's right.
That helps me growing up in the church since I was little. I went to high school, far from my parents, living alone or with some girls from the world. It helps you see actually what the world is. They are preaching in the church, but seeing or living or struggling with some things in the world, and as a Christian kid, it's different, and it helps you to go through things and to have God, your God, and going through things, not your parents, not your church, but yourself with God. And whenever, going into high school, come with us to do some things, or smoking or something. No, I can't, or actually struggling, you're there by yourself. And it helps you.
That's there is a line. How did your dad feel about that? Like, was it just normal for you guys to do, or was your dad nervous with you to go hang out with these, I guess, worldly kids?
So I was there 5 days per week, and in the weekend I will go home. I was talking to my parents on the phone during the week, but he trusted me going there, and he couldn't control me, obviously, because I was by myself. But I was just honest with him. I couldn't lie to my dad.
So you and your dad had a really good relationship?
Yes, very, very close relationship, and I wouldn't do this stuff because I was born again. I had Christ in my heart, and I was talking to Andrew, about that, and I was telling him it wasn't really a struggle. I just had, Christ in my heart, and I didn't want those things. I wasn't like, seeing smoking or drinking people, and I was like, I want to try that, or I would like to. It wasn't that. It was just, I don't want to. It's bad.
Yeah.
And that was it.
No, I'd say that's actually a stark difference from like the way a lot of Christian parents are today. I think it's changing a little. I think it is actually changing, but especially the way I think probably you and I were raised.
Oh yeah.
It was very, I don't really think parents have, and I get it, like you don't start with a walk with God, right? But sadly, I think, at least in my generation, parents were more concerned, not necessarily that you learned to walk with God. It was more that you just didn't do bad things.
Right.
Because like for me, I didn't have a walk with God till I was 20. But hey, I didn't do any bad things, but I just didn't know God, period. Now, I don't, my dad had always wanted me to walk with God, but I think there's just things that are just either overlooked or just not. And my dad will even say to this day, that there's things he definitely would. And hey, when you're a parent, it's like your first try is your last and your trial run. You don't have much wiggle room for like, oh, I'm going to do the next generation different. But that's things that I've been like looking and talking about with my dad, learning from, like kind of like what you said. You had a good relationship with your dad, and your dad trusted your walk with the Lord. And I think in a lot of senses that's totally lacking. One, because young people don't have a walk with the Lord because being good is emphasized, but not necessarily walking with God is emphasized. Standards are exercised, not communication with God, or an intimacy with God. So that, I guess, is a massive difference. How were your parents, or how were you raised like that? Was it?
Yeah. Our upbringing was I would say pretty decent. I mean, dad was in the military, so we had a lot of military traits in our household too, and it was a little bit different for me too, because I mean, being homeschooled, I was the type that was adventurous, and I wanted to go, and I didn't really have to deal with those things until I finally broke out of that household and just started working around actual people and starting to realizing what the world was. And it wasn't such a big impact on me because my Christian walk was pretty strong. And I think that just has to do with the preaching at our church and just being attentive and having a walk with God, and kind of knowing what you wanted and knowing what I was going to be, and keeping a tender heart with that. And that was, I could say, like, my upbringing helped that. And of course, everybody has rocky edges, right? But going out and seeing the world, seeing a lot of these things, just never had a desire for it. I have uncles who drink, a lot of unsaved family. You kind of see the scars with the family and see things that happen. And even in my own home, like whenever my parents got saved, they got saved at an older age, and so I still remember some things in the family that were there a lot of changes going on, and so I kind of had to live through the world parents, and then as we got brought through the Christian parents, so I kind of got a taste of both sides, and then I also knew what I wanted and what I didn't want, and I think by the grace of God, we had really good preaching, and I got saved at a young age, and it was pretty solid through there. So going to work, working around a lot of guys and stuff, I knew what was right and I knew what was wrong, and never had a desire for any of that.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And yet, where did you go? You went to some country for like 6 months. Where was that again?
Papua New Guinea.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was, I think every especially young man, should spend some time in a rough third world country where I think you were telling me the other day you had to sleep on, you didn't have a bed, you had like.
Yeah, it was a small mattress, but I mean, you could literally feel any nail or an ant that's crawling underneath you. You're like, yeah, you knew it just wasn't a good area to sleep, but it taught you a lot of things. And the reason actually why I went was I went through a hard time in my life, and actually relationship. In my life, I prepared myself. I moved out when I was 18 years old, out of my family's house, and just basically started working 2 jobs, and I replaced God in my life with my desires, my dreams, what I wanted. I wanted a family and stuff too. And when you move out, sometimes you think you can conquer the world and you know who you are. And yeah, I went out to work for oil and gas industry, and everything was doing great. I had my life planned out, and God had other ideas, other plans for me. And this relationship I was in, I remember God kind of dealing with my heart and just telling me to end the relationship. And I didn't listen to that, because whenever we were taught growing up, whenever you do something, you go all in. And I didn't want to accept it. And I just told God, I remember this, red flags were coming up in the relationship, and a lot of things were going on. And
could you, I'm just curious,
yeah.
Could you kind of talk about some of those red flags, or what were things that God used to think nope, or warning signs?
Yeah, I would say family. Family is a key role into it. Getting to know her and then getting to know the family. And it does matter who you marry. I would say that. It does matter, because you're going to marry the family as well. And I know you're going to become a part of that, because most people think, okay, I'm gaining a daughter or I'm gaining a son, and you got to realize that you're becoming a part of that family. And a lot of that was the family. I just realized I couldn't be part of this family. Things were different, convictions were different, and I started seeing myself lowering my standards for this person, because in my mind I'm like, I love this person. They have some red flags, they have some things, and I won't go into full details with that.
No, that's fine.
But there's just things in family that just didn't work out, and yeah. So it took a pretty crash, because I told the Lord, I said, God, you're going to have to end this relationship, because I'm not going to.
And God's like, can do.
Oh yeah, and I'm like, don't recommend that at all. Yeah, God did that, and for the better. I mean, I am really grateful. And at the time, you're at that young of an age, you think it's the end of the world, and you think this is the biggest problem, and it's the problem that you had to face. And I think every young guy should go through a breakup. And I'm not talking like everybody should just get in a relationship just to go through a breakup or anything, but I think it's good for every young man to go through something hard in his life, to realize what he wants in life, and then to have more of a attentive ear of what God wants him to have.
I think every young guy kind of wrecks his heart,
Right.
even if there's no, physical intimacy. Like that happened to me too. Like I got wrecked,
Right.
a couple times. Well, some were worse than others, but yeah, like because it kind of wakes you up to honestly how kind of dumb you are, and okay, I should just listen to the Lord. Like I should just follow, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and my part too. It was real dumb. You think you're mature at certain ages, and you think you know it all.
Yeah.
And God just kind of opened my eyes. And anyways, so that kind of happened in my life. And brother, actually, at the time, Pastor Farley, and Miss Marcia, I involved them. I involved my pastor, and just kind of needed to know what I did. I was heartbroken, and I just kind of talked to him. I was like, I don't know what to do in life. And a lot of guys, I would say this is important. A lot of guys that date inside the church, whenever they break up, or if it doesn't work out with that certain person, sometimes they go too far into the relationship or give their heart away right away. And the devil can use that from getting you out of church. And there was times I would go to church and they'd be up there singing in the church, or they'd be wearing a certain jewelry or something I gave them, just dumb things. And in my head, it's just like, I don't want to be here. I'm not getting anything out of the service. It's just a thorn in my side, I guess you would say, right? And the devil can use that to get you out of church. But I had to realize, you know what, this God's first in my heart. This is my place. I'm just gonna stick with it. And anyway, so I talked to my pastor and I told him, I said, I need to go somewhere. And Brother Damus, Marcia, they said, well, would you go anywhere? I said, absolutely, I would go anywhere.
They were prepping you to say yes.
At that time, I'm like, send me Afghanistan, send me. Yeah, so I'm so sorry. I just got thrown off. I look out the window. I see this possum climbing this tree.
He's mesmerized by the possum.
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
Oh, that's funny. I just thought someone walked by. I was like, what? What are we looking at?
No. I just looked out the window.
funny.
No, they're like, would you go anywhere? And I was like, oh, absolutely. I'll take on the world right now. Let's go somewhere. And I didn't know it was going to be Papua New Guinea. And they asked me, would you go? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I didn't know how long I was going to go. I didn't know how long I was going to be there at all. And I had worked at the oil and gas industry. And they asked me, let's just pray about it and see if you want to go. I said, yeah, sure. So I wanted to go talk to my job about it. And God works things out in his perfect plan, perfect will, per se. So I went to work that day, and I'm going to go to ask my boss, can I have 2 months off of work? And before I could even ask that, they called us all in a room, and they said, hey, the work's going downhill. We got to lay a whole bunch of guys off. And I got laid off. And I was like, okay, Lord, you're doing something in my life. And went to Papua New Guinea and ended up staying for 6 months. Wasn't a plan. I was just going to be there maybe 2 months at the beginning. God just started working in my heart there. And I could say that was the turning point in my life. Really, really the strong turning point in my life.
That's, yeah. I say actually, the school I went to, Alert Academy, they just started a new basic. They call it our night, the first night that the guys get, really grilled. Mm-hmm. And a guy I know is actually in there right now, and I didn't realize he was going in. But I think every young man should go through something that's difficult. I grew up in Fiji, and Papua New Guinea is pretty close, same climate. When you go there and you're kind of left without a lot of amenities that you're used to, especially as an American, and you have to struggle with the food. I know a lot of guys that grew up in the States, they get dysentery and it's rough. They lose tons of weight. You lost a lot of weight.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And it's just painful. It's painful. It's different. And man, those are the times, that are turning points. It's where you learn, okay, I need God. Who am I?
Yeah, it does humble you, man. And I'll just say this. I know that we're talking about relationships and such too as well, but going over there, it gave me a different perspective of what missionaries really are. Mm-hmm. I've traveled around and seen a lot of different missionaries, but this was just a different feel for it. I have a lot of respect for Chad Wells. Was out there. I don't know if you're familiar with them. He has his sons and his daughter, Amber. They were out there too as well. And just the struggles you go through, man. They were there on the field, I think 5 years all at one time before coming back on furlough. And just totally changes you. Everything's different. They had, with the rainwater is what we drink. So basically they had it set up where the roof, they had a gutter, and the gutter would run to a water tank. So whenever it would rain, everything would just go right into that, and that would go through the pipes, and that's right into your glass, and so it was just straight up rainwater, and that's what they survived on. That's what they had. And when I first got there, just having the American mindset, um, you know, when I got there, we'd work all day, and then at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go take a shower, right? And so I go take a shower, and I caught on about the third day. Took a shower, the second day, work, same thing, took a shower, and I started realizing, I was like, why isn't everybody, am I the only one taking a shower here? And I learned real quickly that was their only water system to drink, to wash clothes, and they only had so much because, yeah, sure, it's New Guinea, but they even have dry seasons, and they don't know when they're gonna run out of rain or whenever the rain's gonna stop. We're gonna run out of water. And I had to take that in perspective, and I realized, like, okay, I can't be an American here. I have to, figure out what they're going through. And the biggest blessing I got out of it too was seeing Miss Kristen. That's Brother Chad Wells' wife. The things that she went through. And whenever, I don't know the exact verse, but whenever I walked in the house, she has a verse on her wall, and it says, "Whatever state I am, therefore to be content." And at that point in my life, I wasn't content. I was heartbroken. Just didn't know. I had everything planned, and God just turned my whole world upside down. And I came over there, and I seen the struggles that they're going through. And like, she would have all these flies and such up on the wall, and not a care in the world. You could hear the rats going back and forth. They have no AC, and she just was such a loving woman, and towards her husband and such too. And I know Brother Chad, like, he couldn't do what he does without her. And that just gave me a different perspective. I would say, even in his relationship, like, I look at them and I was like, that's what I want. That's what I was looking for. And that helped me a lot. Just seeing what she went through. And not long ago, I don't know if I'm full correct, but I'll just say, like, not long ago, they had a car accident over there in Papua New Guinea. And Miss Kristen got banged up pretty bad in the accident. And she had like a scar on her face from the accident. And she said, I thank God for the scar because it reminds me of God's grace. And that's just a different mindset over there, man. Just a different mindset of Christianity. And I was like, how can a woman just be like that? And that's exactly what I wanted in my life. I want someone that's going to stand with you. And she went through thick and thin with Brother Chad Wells and the kids too. So, yeah, I call them my family, really, man. They're great people. But it changed my perspective on missions. It changed my perspective on life in general. And it makes you more grateful. Like, we were out there, and there had been times where it was so dry. It changed my prayer life. Never had to pray for rain in my entire life, right?
Yeah.
And that'll change you, man. That'll change you. And the difficulties we go through, and but such great memories. It's not all bad. Everybody thinks it's bad and stuff too. We had great memories, great bonding time with each other. So yeah, it changed me. So whenever I came back, I totally had a different perspective on life, on missionary work, and I got away. I was able to get away in a lone spot, and God kind of took me in a dark place for a long time, and just basically God became my God, I would say. I had to die to myself, and God worked on me. And yeah, it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy, but yeah.
It's the reliance of God becomes very keenly felt. Mm-hmm. When God becomes like, in America, and in any place where you live at ease, God becomes kind of like a spare tire. Mm-hmm. It's like, because you don't see the real need for him at that moment. Where, and we have so many vices. Vices and ease is probably one of the worst things for Christians. It is. It's like, and you're right, kind of about, you don't really remember. Like, for an example, when I was, like, my one of my, like, physically hard times was in alert boot camp. It was like 9 weeks, Mm-hmm. And it was difficult at times, but I remember I thought I was going to have all my good memories from, like, all the other training I did, because I went on to do some cool stuff and like some really exciting stuff. But after finishing school, I look back and I really don't remember those times as being, like, amazing. I remember boot camp as being amazing, even though it was the hardest time. you know.
the struggles.
And kind of like for you, you know, and even troubles in my life. When I look back, I actually don't necessarily see the heartache and trouble as much as I see God's grace in those things. Like that's what sticks out to me is God's goodness. You don't necessarily see the hard times as much,
Right.
you know. And kind of like Ali, what you were saying about your dad. You know, you had to walk with God, and you had to be trusted to just make decisions, to practice that walk. Though those are the things: going to a foreign field, learning to live, learning how to just rely on God and be sick, and you know, deal with things you're not used to, and like you either freak out or you get a hold of God.
Right. Yeah. It was just God for me, being like rely on me, and like you just said too, like I'm thankful now. I look back at it. I'm thankful for those dark times. I'm thankful for the hard times. Like and you feel bad for yourself. I hit that for the first 2 months I was there. I was like, I left my country, I left my church, I left my my family. Poor me, poor me.
And you're there because you're like, I gotta leave my church, and they're
Yeah,
like, I'm
yeah.
thankful for it.
Yeah. Exactly. And then you're seeing people go through difficulties over there in New Guinea, tribal warfare, things going on, and you're like, my problem, it wasn't nothing. It was nothing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good. It was real good for me.
So for you. What was kind of the tipping point for you, Ali, where God became? So what were some of the lessons God used in your life where God really became real to you?
I got saved at a young age in a Christian camp where my parents brought me. Um, but after I think more when I had an impact with the world, I will say, going to school because I had like 7 years of school total. Um, but I can see the difference because, for example, at the beginning in the primary school, how do you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, people are calling you a Christian, and in a way, because I was still living with my parents. Um, the school was in my village, and it was kind of the beginning for me. And they're calling you a Christian, you don't dance, you don't listen what they listen, and I was kind of embarrassed in a way. But after I left and I went to high school, I realized God is everything you need, and you don't need anything else, and He's enough, and He can satisfy you with what He is. And I found Him in a personal way where I could pray, by myself. I could, talk to God like He was my best friend, telling Him exactly my thoughts, whatever was in my heart. And it wasn't that easy in high school, especially the first year. I stayed in a room with other 6 girls, and it was pretty difficult because I supposed to be a testimony, and I was for them, but they were drinking, they were listening music, I couldn't read, I couldn't study because of them. And still, you need to move on and to be nice with them and to talk nice to them, to clean whatever they don't sometimes. And, they were doing whatever, and next day I will have school, I will have classes, and I had to study, and I couldn't. And it was pretty difficult, but I learned um, that God needs to be personal for you. If not, then you will be just a religion, and you will go through life thinking that you have God or you believe in God, but actually you go with your thoughts, with your plans, with your.
Yeah. God has to be very personal. In Romania, they're Orthodox, right? So, just for everyone listening, when I went to Romania, they have churches and crosses absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
So God or Jesus even is not a foreign concept, but they're not Christians. There's no relationship with God. There's no identity to walking with God. Like that just doesn't exist there. And you know, kind of what you're saying, like probably pretty much everyone you probably went to school with were self-proclaimed Orthodox Christians,
Yeah.
but none of them.
For them, they hear a lot. They have lots of traditions and prayers. Since they're small, the parents are teaching them. What they need now is your life as a Christian, and not a fake, or you say whatever, but actually in your life you don't show that. You go to parties or you go, not big things or small details, but they need to see you honest. Even if when you make mistakes, you're still with God, and you're still, I don't know, being a testimony with your life. Because words are
Yeah.
a lot.
Words don't mean much after a while.
Yes.
So, you guys have to tell everybody how you guys met, how that all worked. So you got back. Let's finish your story. So you came back from Papua New Guinea,
Right.
right? And much lighter than you were when you got there.
Oh, much lighter. Probably not now, but yeah, much lighter. But yeah, let me just backtrack just a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
So growing up in a military home, we were raised in a way where when you don't know anything else to do, go to the military, right? And never really had a direction in my life where to go. I didn't know anything really about college. I walked into college, looked around, and was like, this isn't for me, and left and just went straight to the working field. And I just kind of always built my life of heading towards the military. And just something kind of kept me from that. I don't know what it was. I just wanted, I would pray about it, and I would literally seek God for it. God, I want to join the military. I want to do something, and God just kind of kept me from actually going all the way in. I remember I was like 15 years old and we went to teen camp, and Brother Mark McGahee, great evangelist, he comes and preaches our camps and such, and he would preach on it better be real in your life, your Christian walk, it better be real, what you have in your heart, it better be real. And I remember sitting there, and I something inside me, I was like, there's more out there than this normal Christian life of going to church, going to work, going to church, sitting down in service, hearing the preaching, going back home, same routine. And I remember just praying the prayer. I was like, God, I want more of you. I know there's more to this life. I want more. I know there's something else out there. There's more out there. And I remember going down the altar, and I begged God to use me. I said, I was 15 years old, and not knowing what's out there, and in this Christian walk, and I just like, God, for the first time in my life, I'm like, I got saved at a young age. I was around 6 years old, and but when I was 15, I was like, okay, God, here's my life. You have my heart, but here's my all, and just totally surrendered. And I told God, I was like, I want to help somebody. I just want to be a help. I want to help a missionary. I want to do something. And after that teen camp, I was at a friend's house, and David Lindsay, a manager, a missionary at our church, he was going to St. Lucia a lot. And he was at the house while we were there, and he just jokingly walked by me, and he was just like, hey, Andrew, yeah, you should come to teen camp, or should come to St. Lucia, and preach to these young teens and give them your testimony, and just help me out over there. And I didn't know if he was joking or not, but I remembered that last week I just prayed and asked God, it's like, let me be a help to somebody, and I took that to heart, and I went and talked to him the next Sunday, and I said, hey, I'd really like to go. And there was all these things. He's like, well, tickets are real expensive. You're 15, so you're kind of underage. You have to have a parent or somebody to go with you. It is a little pricey, but I'll let you know if prices come down, whatnot. And I was determined. I remember that day I went to the altar and I prayed. I said, God, there's an opportunity for me to go. You said, you gave me this promise that I could help, that I could just be a help somewhere. And God opened doors. The next few Sundays, he came up to me. He said, I've never seen it like this. He says, over the years I've been going to St. Lucia to be like $1,200, $800 per ticket. He said, tickets went down to $200.
Holy cow.
And never seen this. And it was really weird. I was playing with a football team and Shady Acres. and Josh Selvage, actually, he was my coach back then.
Nice.
Yeah, he just did the podcast with you, but yeah, he was my coach at the time. And you know, I was a small kid, and we went out to Miss Kelly's, a lady in our church. We went down to her property and just kind of cleaned up the property. We were just trying to raise money to you know, carry on with our football team, right? Buy jerseys, buy things too. And God put it on her heart. Well, us boys were out there working real hard, and she came up to me and another guy, and she said, you know, I see that y'all are working real hard out here, and here's $200, and gave us $200. And at the time, you know, I didn't have a job. I was doing school, all this stuff too. And so he came up to me in the next service, and he's like, take us went down $200, and I had $200 was given to me, and I didn't have a passport. Needed a passport, and Brother Danny, my dad, actually went and talked to Pastor Farley at the time, and talked to him. He said, yeah, Andrew really wants to go to the mission field, and he said, oh, Andrew wants to go, and he reached in his pocket and pulled out $150 and gave it to my dad, and my passport cost $150 exactly. So my ticket, $200, my passport, $150. And Brother Brad, Pastor Brad now, he preaches on what mean these stones in your life. And I look back at that and I'm like, God, that's something in my life as a stepping stone. And yeah, God did that for me. I went to St. Lucia, first mission trip, helped Brother Lindsay build buildings, do things, and God just started working on things. Fast forward, you know, gone to all these places, Miss Marcia, went to Colombia, been to Ukraine, 2015. Brother came in our church, Brother Terrell Jackson, and he just asked me, he's like, hey, would you want to go to Ukraine? And I was like, yeah, back in 2015. And another brother paid for my trip and just went, just the whole way, God was just opening doors and just letting me go through. I've never asked, like, well, yeah, I did ask. I asked God, I was like, you know, I want to be a help. And God's opened the doors every single step of the way. And anyway, so we went to Ukraine, came back, and that's where I met Artyom, that's where I met Danik, met Lily, you know, just great people. Got to meet them, and then I came back and didn't think anything of it, and started my life, right? Kind of forgot whatever I asked God to do in my life, kind of put that to the side, and you get older, graduated, and I'm like, okay, I want to start my life. That's when everything kind of fell apart, my life, then went to New Guinea. And came back from New Guinea, and I sat in church 4 years, and just got tired of sitting there. And finally, I wanted to join the military, and I was like, okay, you know, God, I want you to show me where to go. I want you to give me the yes to go. I have every reason to go. I love my country. I'm very patriotic, and I'm like, I want to serve. My brother just joined the military too that year, so it was even more of a pull.
For all of you listening, he's wearing a grunt style T-shirt
Right.
with an American Sniper hat.
Yeah, American Sniper. Yeah. But yeah, I was really wanting to go, and God just, something in my heart just kept me. And I remember I need approval from the church. If I can get approval from my pastor, if I can get approval from the church, then that's my yes to go. And I think this is very important just for anybody in general, where we're just looking for a yes from your church, or you're looking for a yes, not from God.
It's kind of the scapegoat. It's like, if
Yeah.
you know, if I can get a yes from them, then I can just tell God, well, they told me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what I was looking at. I was just looking for approval. And my pastor at the time, Brother Danny Farley, was so wise, because that service I went to him and I was like, you know, I'm going to be like all these other guys that go. I'm going to be real spiritual real quick, and I'm going to just go up to him, talk to him, and be like, hey, preacher, I want to go. I want to join the military. Would you pray with me about that? And I was going to, see his reaction to be like, yeah, I'll pray for that, or I think that's good for you, Then I'm going to be like, yes, there's my answer. Not God. There's, my pastor's going to answer, for me. Mm-hmm. And he told me this. I'll never forget it. I remember going up to him. I was like, hey, preacher, I'm looking to go into the military. Would you pray with me about it? And he looked at me and he said, Andrew, he goes, figure out what God wants for you. Figure out what God's will is for your life and follow it. And he turned around and walked off.
You're like, dang it, man, you're supposed to tell me I can go.
Absolutely. And I just felt it in my heart. I was like, what a wise answer for anybody.
Yeah.
But I just felt it in my heart, and God just kind of gave me that punchline. It was just like, this is not for you. And I fought that and I struggled with it. And finally I just got to the point, and I don't recommend this with anybody. I got to the point where I was like, God, you have till January at the time to tell me where to go, to give me a path to follow. And
Allie's shaking her head like, what an idiot.
yeah, what an idiot. I mean, yeah. And I was like, you have this, this time period. And the next week, Brandon gave me a call. IMSI director. He gave me a phone call and he said, hey, Andrew, I didn't know him very well at the time. And he said, hey, I hear that you know Artyom and Danik and Lily, that you were in Ukraine back in 2015. They just did a trip over to Ukraine and came back, and Artyom and some of our other brothers, they kind of asked about me. And, it kind of shocked them because they had no idea I went. And so I was like, yeah, I know them. And he said, would you be willing to come to a VBS in Romania? And deep down in my heart, I was like, Lord, no. Because God's doing a work in your heart. And I was like, no, I don't want to. But God just pressed on my heart, and he was like, just go. And at first I wasn't willing. I didn't want. I wasn't there. But I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. And yeah, she's laughing at me. I'm very hard-headed when it comes to.
You're a Texan. It comes with the territory.
It comes with the territory, yeah. And so, anyways, we went over there to. I went over to Romania, and just kind of broke over there, to be honest. Yeah, we went over there. Just my heart was full, God. I asked God, why are you letting me, out of everything I've gone through in my life, why are you letting me? There's so many other people, at the church at Shady Acres. I wasn't a big spotlight. I've never been a spotlight guy, and I was like, well, why me? And there's a big hill over there in Romania that everybody kind of hikes up. There's a big cross at the top of the hill. And at the time, one of the brothers that took me up there, and I got to look over all of Lunca in Romania, the little town there. And that was my biggest question, because I was like, God, I'm looking for you. I'm desiring you. I don't know what to do. And I was like, I have my dream. I have my desires, what I want to do. I want to join the military. I want to go out. I want to do this thing. I'm like, why can't I? Why can't I do what I want? And for the first time in my life, people talk about having, peace in your heart. And I never understood what that meant. I was just like, what do you mean? Like, how do you know you feel this peace? Obviously, I wasn't feeling it. Yep. And the people were like, when it's God speaking to you. And for the first time in my life, I had this peace in my heart that I felt God speaking to me, just being like, if you want to join the military, go. And it was just a big weight off my chest. I was like, yes, finally what I want. I got an answer from God, directly from God, that if I want to join the military when I go home, I can join the military, I can go, I can live my life, and God's going to take care of me, and God's going to be with me. I don't see the military as a bad thing for a lot of people. If you have a good foundation and you have a great walk with God, then great. A lot of people, they join the military, and in the first place, they're not looking for God. They may be in the church, but they're looking for a way out. And
well, that's kind of Josh Salvage's story,
right? Right.
From the last podcast,
right? And so I was like, God, this is what I want. And God told me it's okay. If you want that, then go for it. And then deep down in my heart, just like the Holy Spirit talking to me, speaking to my heart, and it was like, but if you want to give me your dream and you want to give me your desires, then I will double bless you. And honestly, I wanted that double blessing in my life. I've seen preachers, I've seen things in my life where I'm just like, I think back in Papua New Guinea, and I think of Miss Kristen and Brother Chad, and having absolutely nothing, giving up their dream, living here in the United States and going to Papua New Guinea. I mean, who would do that, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I want that double blessing, God. And wasn't even looking for a relationship, wasn't looking for anything. And the next week or so, seen Allie, and she was she was just being a big help. Just being a big blessing, and God just kind of put our paths together. What was it? We met at a wedding in Romania,
First day.
and we were introduced to each other.
Was that Miriam's wedding?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen pictures of Miriam's wedding. That's cool. So you guys met there.
Right, right. I'll let you tell this part.
Well, it's not much to say. I mean, a brother from the church introduced him to me, but I wasn't interested at all. It's just, hi, my name is Ellie, and I was looking for some person, and he was like, just introduce. And that was kind of it. We didn't talk at all that day.
Yeah,
And that was Sunday, and actually the next week, camp VBS started. So, yeah.
and that was my focus. I was like, okay, God gave me an answer, so I'm just gonna be all I can be right here in this area and part of my life. And honestly, man, I can't tell you how God did it. It was just that for me, obviously, I was like, military or alley, like, like God really blessed me, and
Were you interested in Allie the first time you saw her, or was it just like
it was just like a
another
normal meeting, just like, hi, how are you? All right, like, I wasn't looking to live, in Romania or anything, or even marry a Romanian. It was just like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. And then during that period of the week, we worked together. We had, I think it was 2 weeks, yeah? 2 weeks. We had a younger vacation Bible school for younger kids, and then the second week we had, and she was very well involved in that. And same with me. We're just working together, doing things, and that second week, the first week, really nothing, but I kind of just paid attention to who she was. And I really just don't know, man. Like, things just kind of tied together. It just felt like we've known each other our whole lives in a way. Just hit it off real well, and we just started talking. And I thought it important, I was like, if this is going to go on, carry on her thing. I'm like, I don't really know her. I live, obviously I'm an American, she's a Romanian. And that was important to me. I was like, really big factor. I was like, okay, what's these culture differences? What can we do? And I was raised in a really good environment, I would say, especially from the church. Just brought up in the church, knowing how to do things correctly, and talk to Brother Brandon and some other people, my pastor, about it, and then went and talked to her dad, and I was like, hey, is it possible that I talk to your daughter? Because I don't know where everybody's from, but from down here, I mean, that's the right thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Right? And so, yeah, things just kind of carried on from there. And
Were you surprised, Allie, or were you like, I knew this was coming?
No, actually, for me, for a period of time we didn't have camp or VBS because of some things, and actually that was the first year after a long time when we had camp, and I was so happy to have again camp that I was so involved and ready to do anything, happy to to receive the kids, to sing, to do whatever. And I wasn't looking for anything. He came, okay, but yeah, I wasn't looking for a relationship or a man, but he was very all into it. And even before, when I was praying for the future husband, I was praying for someone to have the same desire like me, to be a help to people and to serve God. I shouldn't change my beliefs because of him, or he shouldn't change his beliefs because of me. He should stand on me, I should stand on my beliefs no matter what. And for us, as a girl, I could say, I appreciated a lot his honesty, and he was very open towards me. And I was like, he was so open, and he was telling me some things, I was like, why do you tell me these things? You don't even know me yet. Like,
Was this during the camp or after you guys
yes,
started
during
dating?
the camp.
During the camp, okay.
Yeah, during the camp, because she caught my eye, and yeah, that was my thing, especially from past relationships. I knew what I wanted now, and yeah, and that's why I was like, okay, I'm gonna be straight up open. well, this is who I am, and it might have been real weird, honestly.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be just real open of who I am and my intentions in a way, not in a weird way, but just I wanted to hear her testimony. Even that was probably the most important thing for me. I was like, okay, is this girl even saved? Let me hear. And I think even the first week I was like, let me watch her, right? Because people show you a lot just through their actions.
Yeah.
Are they going to be there? Are they going to be involved? And then, secondly, too, I met her father, Brother Nemo, and I watched her relationship with her dad, and that was very, very important for me. If the daughter and the father don't have a good relationship, if he tells her to do something or something and she takes it in a whole different way, you know, it's a red flag for me, because if she's not listening to her dad, then she's not going to listen to you, and you can't change her. And that was another thing I would say too for me. Like, I wasn't going into this thinking I can change her, and I feel like many people get in a relationship, and that goes down with the whole red flags things I was talking about earlier. Is that okay? She's got these issues, but I can change this. I can change her, or she can change him. And if you're not walking, or you're not in the same place spiritually, and one may be up here, one may be down here. One person's going to run the race faster than you are, and they're going to pull you along, and you're going to get tired. And then same way, they're going to have a spiritual relationship with God, but it's way down here, and yours is up here, and they're going to pull you behind. And so that was very important to me, just to be upfront. Like, this is where I'm at, right? Just be straightforward. And it was good. I got to meet her family and things, and met her church. And then we just took it slow. I was like, let's talk. Let's figure out each other. Let's figure out. I mean, we definitely come from two big different backgrounds, right? American.
And a Texan at that, like,
it's
different. Like, that's
it's different. Yeah.
I always tell people, like, no one brags about their state like Texas does.
Right.
Like, when you go to Washington, you don't hear people like, oh, I'm from Washington. Everything's better in Washington. That's a very Texan thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm like, all the great soldiers come from Texas. We have the Alamo. Like, we got Chris Kyle. You got Marcus Luttrell. Like, I mean, I'm like, all Texans over here. Right. But, I'm biased. It's okay.
Yeah. No, that's really awesome. It's been cool to, when I met you guys, we hit it off, I think, pretty well, just talking and hanging out and stuff.
Yeah.
And Allie was great too. Obviously got to know you a lot better just by,
Right.
But you guys are great. And I was surprised. I didn't think this was going to happen until I went to Romania, us doing a podcast. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And so what were other things that, I guess, going back to, how was things since you're married now? How long have you guys been married? 6 months?
7 months.
7 months?
7 months.
So
Yeah.
it hasn't been long.
Yeah. I don't keep track.
Yeah. Actually, Allie, you said something hilarious earlier. What was it? What did you say? Oh, we were talking in there, and you were like, you said something like, yeah, I met him, like, I knew he had a walk with God, and God was in, and he was like, but I'm getting to know him now, or something like that.
That was because we had like maybe 2 years of online. We were talking on the camera, calling each other, and actually meeting. We met in person like maybe 4 times in all this time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of difficult. In our minds, like, hanging out, getting to know each other. But for us, a big thing was being honest with each other.
Right.
Is the main. Being honest, being open, speak your mind, because the other person doesn't know what's in your mind.
Exactly.
And I think this is what
we're in the dating phase now, and right, like, we didn't get the dating phase.
Yeah.
So we're in the dating phase now, because I mean, we're just over the phone talking, and I couldn't go over to Romania at certain times. Obviously, she couldn't come here.
The time difference.
So we would meet up.
hours.
We went to Spain for a missionary. Josh Stokes had a conference up there, and we would meet up in Spain. But we wouldn't. It was so weird, because we were so involved with things that we didn't actually have time to be there and to go date. We worked together. So we worked in the kitchen, or we helped each other. So it was even difficult to still try to get to know each other. And so I think that would probably be the hardest part and the hardest things with it, because you want to get to know the person. You want, like, this person I'm going to marry. And so that's what was so important for me, to bring all my cards to the table and just be like, this is who I am, and pray to God and just be like, I hope she's as true and as I'm trying to be with her. I was even upfront about my past, upfront with things I wanted in life, dreams that I wanted, even convictions. And then I think we even got to the point too where things we even dealt with. Like, I know I should be better at this, but this is what I struggle with. And yeah, I'm gonna tell you because I'm trying to invest in you.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that becomes a secret in some cases.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally. Well, sadly, where I think a lot of Christian young people, they're more about the catch than they are about they're not really trying to have godly practices that will make the relationship last. They're just trying to get the marriage date nailed down.
Right.
Like, best foot forward, we get married. Okay, now we can actually be honest.
Right.
And it's just a bad gig all the way around. And a lot of these kind of questions that you guys, until I was like 25, I didn't, if you would have asked me before, like, what are you looking for even, or what are the kind of questions you're going to ask, I really didn't have anything. It was like, obviously you want to know if they're saved, they're Christian, is their home life good? Great. Okay. Like, I guess it's good,
Right.
But after, I think I was like 26, God really started teaching me a lot. And have you ever been in one of those studies where God starts teaching you something and you can't get out of it?
Oh yeah.
It's like you're drinking from a fire hose, and God just keeps bringing people that keep giving you more, gold nuggets on this certain topic. It was like that for me for like a year plus, where I just kept having these people talking to me, married people, older people, younger people, about, relationship stuff and how it works. And I was reading some books and listening and studying, like, I was studying Genesis about Adam and Eve. I was studying Ephesians 5. I was studying Peter. I was studying things Paul said. Like, I was studying all these different things. And after kind of doing that, coming out of it, God really gave me a lot of understanding, like, okay, these are the things that you actually want to talk about. These are the things that you want to. And like, kind of what you're saying, a lot of those, they're pretty much a lot of the same things, right? You need to be honest with the other person. You need to, because you're really, what you're doing is you're respecting their future. Mm-hmm. Like, how greedy, how narcissistic is it to put your best foot forward? It's pretty much false advertisement. You marry them, and then you're like, now, because you're both in a Christian worldview, it's like, you're stuck with me. But I've heard many actually men and women say, if I knew what I know now, I would not have married them. Mm-hmm. Like, that's probably one of the most narcissistic things you can do to your marriage. But that's kind of how a lot of people approach it. Is like, best foot forward, we'll figure everything out later. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. But anyway, so what do you guys, I guess, for the listeners, what are you guys up to now? What are your plans? I know you guys are going back to Romania in like April, I think.
Yeah, it's actually, big question.
No, I'm sorry, June.
Yeah, June. I'm sorry. Yeah,
that's
June.
right. Sorry, I said April, and I was like, wait, it's not April.
Right. No, so through this whole relationship thing, we got married, and we were just trying to figure out what God wants, and I felt it on my heart, just mostly because I don't know her family, I don't know her culture, I don't know her people, and God just put it on my heart, like, you move there, you go there, you learn who they are, you show them who you are, right? And take the time. Just don't, grab a girl and be like, let's go, right?
Yeah, right.
So it was time. So God allowed us to move over there for a little bit, and God's just doing things in our life. And I'm at the point too right now where you're like, okay, God, I don't know what you're doing. I know you're doing something. I know you have a plan. I want God to show me that plan, but obviously just right now, man, we're just taking it real slow. And it's been great getting to know her father, her mother, her family, her upbringing. So much that I've learned over there as well. Just by her her upbringing. We're raised here. I'm not trying to chase a rabbit hole, but
I'll chase it. Doesn't bother me.
yeah, we're raised here where small things are big in other places, if that makes sense. We were raised, have the American dream, buy a car, do your job, get a good job, and carry on. And over there, whenever I met her, I went to her house, and it's a small house. It's very small.
Yeah, I was over there for dinner one
Yeah,
time.
that's right. Yeah, you were there. And we're there, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, okay, well, where's your bedroom? Because they got one bedroom in the back, and that's mom and dad's bedroom. And I'm like, okay, where's her bedroom? And the couches that we sit on where the dinner table was,
Yep.
that was her bed. That was her room. That was, you share everything. And so we came from totally different areas and different mindsets when it comes to things. And God's really worked on me and done something in my heart where things that used to matter that I didn't seem as big in my life, like God's taken that from me and showed me different things, like they don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
And even when it comes to fellowshipping with people, over there it's a really big thing. Everybody goes around and fellowships, and I like keeping to myself. I like doing my thing. I'm not a spotlight guy. I'm just gonna do what I do best. And God's really taught me fellowship really matters, and getting to know everybody there. And so even since we came over here back to America, we haven't stopped, man. We've been going around fellowshipping with people, and I would say her culture, not even really culture, but just her upbringing,
Mindset.
her mindset, mindset really changed portions of my life and kind of brought pieces out of me. So going back to your question, right now we would definitely want to. We're working on getting a dual citizenship for myself over there, and that's going to take about 3 to 5 years or so. It is a process. So we're working on that. So we're going to be in Romania, I would say, close to 5 years. And during that time frame, we've been able to go into Ukraine. We've been going to Ukraine every month. My God, am I a missionary? What am I here for? And God's just putting it on my heart, man. Like, I love the story about Jonathan and his armor bearer, and that chapter, I love First and Second Samuel, but that armor bearer, I've been really big on that. Nobody knows his name. He doesn't have a title by his name. He just does a job. He protects. Jonathan carries his armor. There's lots of different things the armor bearer does, right? And God's really worked on my heart that, even Papua New Guinea, I don't have to be a preacher. In order to serve God, I don't have to have this big title by my name. I don't have to wear a suit and tie kind of thing and just be like, this is, God allows us to do different things. If you can sweep the floor, if you can cook, if you can change a tire, you can do it for the glory of God. And even if you have a mouth and you can go and you can fellowship with someone and you can say, you can lift God up, glorify God and help somebody else. Like that's the key motive. And I was like, God, let me be an armor bearer. Let me go over there. Let me help Brandon. Let me help Brother Brad. Let me do something. And I know that's cliche to a lot of churches. You got to have a title by your name. You have to be called to a certain place. I'm like, I'm not called. I would say this. I'm not called to a specific place. I feel like I'm called to people.
Yeah, and I tell you what, this is a bit of a hobby horse for me.
Yeah.
Because breaking, and we've talked about this. Like I don't really hold to the modern mission philosophy. We've kind of made missions and pastoring a career and like a clergy laity idea, like the Catholic Church did. You're the peons. You sit in the pews. You listen. You clap and you encourage, and you give money. But I'm the guy. I'm the man of God. I'm this. And they always say it in a deeper voice.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of in that same boat too, where it's like I can preach. I know you can preach.
Mm-hmm.
We both can teach, but we don't have specific titles. And I tell people, listen, I'm not gonna. One of my mentors said to me, and I try to live by it, is when it comes to titles, don't name yourself into a box, right? Don't say I'm this, and then like, oh, that's all I can be. Like, hey, serve God, and mean, you're doing stuff there. You know, you're working, you're getting to know the people, and you're traveling into other countries on a regular basis, helping out and fellowshipping with people. You're networking. That's literally what a missionary is. If you look at the life of Paul, he was an evangelist and he was a networker and a preacher of the gospel. That's what he did, you know. And hey, for any of you who are listening, if you want to support them going back over there, because right now he's just like coming back to the States, working a bunch, and then headed back over. You know, let me know, or just contact me over the podcast. But missionary work, I'd say, is looking different, and it's looking better, in my opinion. We need to learn how to reach people, we like our programs as Americans. We really like our programs, and like we like everything to be. We pretty much take everything that we see and we try to make it American and like conform it, you know. And
let me take control.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but mission work is not like that. If we're going to reach the world, it can't be an American thing, right? We have to work within the cultures. And I think being a missionary is just being someone who's willing to go and actually doing stuff and going, title or no title. You know, now a lot of churches won't take you on unless you have an exact country and you have some sort of certificate saying that you know the Bible, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, obviously, I think you need to vet people, but at the same time, like, I'm sorry, you know, I'm not gonna. A lot of times, even Christian institutions can become extremely corrupt. So follow God, have mentors, and move forward. And that's exactly what you guys are doing, you know. And you and I will probably be working a bunch too, because as all my listeners know, I'm going to Romania later than you are. But I mean, the goal is to just seek God, you know, bring people to the gospel and stuff like that. And your work is just as relevant, or relevant. That's not a word. What's the word I'm looking for? Relevant. There you go. I said it right.
Relevant.
It's much more relevant as anybody else's work, right? We're just seeking to win people to the Lord and tell people the gospel. So thanks for being on the podcast. Allie, do you have anything to say? Finishing up. No, it's really good to get to know you guys better, and we're going to have a lot more fun in the future. So anyway, for all my listeners, thank you for listening to the podcast. Let me know if you have any more questions about this episode or other episodes. Let me know if you want to talk to them in the future or whatnot, or support them. And you guys have a good morning, evening, and we'll see you on the next episode.